Hello everybody and welcome to another A plus 1102 course or lesson, shall I say, with some questions at the end where I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about all of this. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you some practice exam questions representing the kind of questions that you might be asked for the real exam. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. We're going to start with physical security and physical security for staff. So let's get straight into it. There are a wide variety of things you need to know about in relation to physical security for staff. I'm going to go through them one by one and tell you what they are and what their rough purpose is, and just understand before we get into this that in relation to your exam, you're pretty much going to need to be able to say, based on the scenario, which one of these is the best option for me to be using, which one of these best suits the scenario that has been placed in front of me. I've been asked to recommend one of these, what should I do? Or I've been asked to recommend a combination of these, which combination should I choose? Alternatively, the exam might describe what is being used, and you'll have to say, okay, I see that what's being described is a badge reader, for example, or what's being described is an alarm system. So those are the kind of questions you might be asked. That being said, we'll get straight into it. So the first thing you need to know about is an access control vestibule, otherwise known as a man trap. So this is a two-door security system where one door must close before the other opens. So this ensures that only people who are meant to go in the building are able to go in the building. No one can follow the other person behind. So take a quick look at this. This is pretty much what that looks like. So you can imagine you would walk through that door. You'd have to close that door behind you before the next door would open, meaning that basically no one could follow you through. You have to be inside with both doors closed prior to that other door being able to open. So it's making sure that only the right person can actually get into the building. So that is an access control vestibule. The next one is a badge reader. So we almost know intuitively what that is, right? It's an electronic system that grants access only to individuals with valid ID badges programmed for specific areas. So you have an ID badge and you scan it on the badge reader, and you either do or do not have the authority to enter that particular area. Depending on whether you do or don't, you'll be let in or you won't be let in. So that's how that works. Just understand those are for access control. That's controlling who can physically access the environment, right? If you don't have the right badge, you're not going to get in, right? If you're not authorized to enter the building, you're not going to be able to get in. Usually these two will be used in conjunction in some way, shape, or form. So like you might have to scan your badge in order to gain access to that first door opening for that man trap. So you would scan your badge, go inside, close that door, and then no one else would be able to scan their badge. See that little like badge reader here? No one else would be able to scan their badge until both doors are locked, making sure that only one person can go in at a time. So you can see how those two things might be used in conjunction for access control. The next three are for detection and monitoring. So video surveillance, we know what video cameras are. The thing you have to think about and remember, particularly for your exam, cameras are designed to deter and or detect. So if someone is looking to gain unauthorized access and they see cameras, it is going to deter them. It is going to make them say, oh, maybe I don't want to be caught on camera. It's also for detecting them, but not all cameras are actively manned or actively being looked at in real time. A lot of the time cameras are recording, but it's not until the crime has already occurred that you can then go back to the cameras and after the fact say, oh, this is what happened, right? So take that into account for your exam, just knowing that often video cameras are not actively being watched in real time. So it's mostly more for deterring crime and seeing what happened after the fact than it is for actually detecting them in real time. It's very rare that you'll have someone watching the video camera, oh, there's something happening, now I have to go out and pursue, right? It can happen, but unless it's explicitly stated in your question on the exam, don't make that assumption that that's the case. The next one is an alarm system. So of course, it is an audible and visual alert that is triggered by unauthorized entry attempts or other security breaches. So you've got loud noises, flashing lights, right? That's what an alarm system is. You can imagine what that's used for. And then motion sensors are detecting movement within a designated area, triggering alarms or recording devices, right? So based on whether or not there is motion or movement, they are then going to take a particular action, whatever it is they're programmed to do. Maybe they'll sound an alarm, maybe they won't sound an alarm and they'll send a notification to you saying, hey, someone's on your property. It would depend. The next one is barriers and deterrence. So a door lock. You lock your door. It's going to prevent physical entry to the property. An equipment lock Same thing as a door lock, but for equipment. So locks for securing equipment, preventing theft or unauthorized use. If you have your laptop in a public library, you might use an equipment lock to lock the laptop to the desk so that it cannot be physically stolen. Alternatively, you in a server room, you will also find locks being placed over the actual the grid, protecting the server on the outside, like the cage, preventing anyone who's not authorized from accessing the server in the first place. So just understand, you can lock a door, you can lock equipment so that you can prevent access either to an area, room, location, or to equipment, right? That's pretty easy to get your head around. And then you've got guards. So security personnel patrol and monitor a location. They deter crime because you see guards, you don't want to take that risk. You're probably going to go home, try somewhere else. And they're enforcing security protocols. So guards would deter, and they would also detect as well, because obviously if they see it, they're going to detect the crime. So deterrence and detection. If I had to pick one, I'd say probably more on the lines of deterring, because realistically, especially if you have a big property, there is an opening window to get past guards. But if you see guards, you're going to think to yourself, okay, there's like physical guards who are going to try to stop me. I'm probably better off going somewhere else, right? So those are the kind of things you want to be thinking about. And then you've got bollards. So they're robust posts installed to prevent unauthorized vehicles from entering restricted areas. So just so we can get like a look at that, you can see what that looks like. Of course, you can do this yourself for any of these, but it's basically not so much that one. That's pretty. That's not exactly bolted into the ground, but like this one here, right? Bollard. So a car isn't going to be able to drive when my internet loads. Is not going to be able to drive past. Just pretend it's like made of metal and it's bolted into the floor, right? You can see that one looks kind of rubbery actually, but you can see how if it's made of metal, it's bolted into the floor. A car's not going to be able to get past that, so it's going to prevent vehicular access. Is the primary goal of a bollard. Alrighty, and then we have a fence. We know what a fence is. It's a physical barrier that prevents access to a particular location. It's deterring unauthorized access by restricting movement, right? So you got to be able to climb that fence. Most people don't want to actually have to do that. So when it comes to choosing the right measure, there's a few things you have to consider. So if you have a high security area, you are going to want stricter measurements like man-trap or access control vestibules. That's where you'll likely be having that. If it's a really high security area, you're not just going to put that anywhere because it's quite expensive. You got to consider the cost as well, and you'll probably pair that with some form of biometric authentication. And then it's generally good to have a layered approach. So you want a combination of different security measures, so detection and deterrence, and prevention as well. Ideally, you'd have some level of all three of those. Now, the next one is physical security for staff. So key fobs and smart cards. So of course, look, this one's pretty self-explanatory, right? We kind of know what these are. They are electronic credentials that grant access to specific areas based on programmed commissions. So staff will be carrying around key fobs or cards on them that when they scan, again, they will either be authorized or not authorized to gain entrance or to use a certain thing. So depending on the permissions that they have, they will or will not be given permission to gain entrance or use that resource. Then you have keys. A physical key unlocks a physical lock. I'm sure you know that one. And then biometrics. So biometrics, we've covered this previously, but we'll cover it again. Biometrics is something you are. So it's something that is physically part of your body. So your eye, you might scan your eye or your fingerprint or your palm print, right? Something that you physically are. No one can steal it. Like they can steal your PIN or your password or your username, or they can steal your phone to get the multi-factor authentication off of your phone after they log into your emails with the data that they stole, but they can't steal your eye. They can't steal your finger. They can't steal your palm. It's something that is you. It's something you are is the official kind of term that they use to describe it. So you've got retina scanners, fingerprint scanners, palm print scanners. That is what biometrics refers to. Now, environmental security, finally, you have lighting. Well-lit areas do deter crime and improve visibility for security cameras. So if you light it up, people are less likely to want to get in. And then magnometers or metal detectors. So a magnometer is a metal detector. This is used in high security environments to detect unauthorized weapons or other metallic objects. So the metal scanners, that's a magnometer. All right, so we're going to move on to logical security now. So we're going to start with the principle of least privilege and we'll move through these. So we'll know everything we need to know about these particular sub-dot points of this dot point in this exam objective, and you'll be ready to go for your exam. Let's get straight into it. Logical security. Just, I guess, first thing first, what does that even mean, logical security? So there's physical security. These are physical things you can actually see and touch. And then there's logical security, which is kind of like, it's like the software component. It's like this invisible layer of security that you can't see with your eyes necessarily, but it's practices and things you put in place in order to make sure that you are having security, not necessarily through a physical lock, but through another mechanism which isn't clearly visible. It's not tangible, you can't touch it, but it is a layer of security that is there. So you'll see what I mean as we go through. So the principle of least privilege is the first one we need to know about. And this is essentially just the concept of granting users only the minimum permissions that they need in order to perform their tasks. If someone needs to only access printers, you only give them permission to access the printers. You don't also give them permission to access the high security science labs with all of your data in there, right? You just give them the permissions for what they need. That way you're minimizing the amount of people that have access to those critical resources that could do serious damage. So see what I mean by logical security? It's the idea of giving the minimum amount of privilege to people that they need. So that is what the principle of least privilege refers to. That's pretty much all you need to know for your exam. Just understand that, be able to explain it. Now, an access control list, or ACL, is something that defines who can access specific resources. So files, folders, systems, and what actions they can perform. Can they read? Can they write? Can they execute? Think about those permissions that we were doing in the Linux exam objectives in exam objective 1.11, right? When we went through all those and we did the chmod command where we changed the permissions, right? So access control lists are things that define who can access those resources and what they can do with them. So you would use those to control who can do what and what they can do what with. Hopefully that made sense. And then we already should hopefully understand the idea of multi-factor authentication. This is basically where you're authenticating using more than one factor. So not just a password and a username, not just a thumbprint, not just a code on your phone through SMS, but through at least two different factors. So it's going to be something you know in combination with something you have, or something you have in combination with something you are. Any combination of these two. So if you have a password and a PIN, that's not multi-factor because they are both a part of something you know. And it has to be one from at least two of these different categories. So one from here, one from here, one from here, one from here, not two from the same category. Hopefully that made sense. Now, there are some additional things that we need to consider here that's outlined in the exam objectives. We need to think about email security. So, of course, with your emails, be cautious of the attachments and links that are sent into your emails. They could be phishing attempts. So if you have an email that is sent to you asking you to click on a link, be very careful about clicking on those links. They could be malicious. You want to make sure that you use strong passwords and consider all other email security measures. So basically just make sure you've got a strong password for your email login and don't go clicking on every link that you see. Be able to kind of identify phishing emails. You want to see generally if they're talking about a high level of urgency, if there is an error in the email address sending that email, things to that effect, that's going to indicate that it is probably a phishing email. Now, tokens, hard and soft tokens, these are something that you're going to need to know about for your exam. So hard tokens are physical devices used as a form of multi-factor authentication. So they usually generate temporary codes for login verification. We'll just see if we can quickly find one here actually. Hard token multi-factor authentication. And we should hopefully be able to find some images. Here we go. Yeah, perfect, right? So here's an example. So we've got this token here that will actually produce a one-time code, and you'll need to use the code that produces in order to log in, and that's going to tell whatever it is you're authenticating to that you do have this physical hardware token on you, and it's going to act as a form of additional authentication. So similarly, you also have software tokens. So a software application or a soft token can essentially do the same thing, but instead of a piece of hardware that's doing that for you, it's a piece of software. Now, you can get an SMS as a form of multi-factor authentication as well. So you put in your password, they send an SMS to your phone, which you then use to authenticate. So they'll SMS you a code, for example, and you'll have to type that code in to say, I actually am the person with this phone number. You can also get a voice call as a form of multi-factor authentication. That will give you a code over the phone. And there are also authenticator applications, which is basically a software application on your phone that will generate a time-based one-time password, or a TOTP, for multi-factor authentication. So that's basically just, you have an application on your phone. It produces a code, and you will then use that code to authenticate to whatever it is you're authenticating. So you'll log in with your username and password, and then it'll say, hey, we've just used that app to generate a code. Go to the app, check out the code, type it in here. We'll make sure it's the same code to show that you are the person that you say you are, right? So those are the multiple different ways you can get multi-factor authentication going on. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to mobile device management and Active Directory now. So straight into mobile device management, then we'll head into Active Directory and go through all of these as well. Let's get straight to it. Mobile device management. Look, what is it? It's a solution that helps organizations manage and secure mobile devices such as smartphones, tablets, and laptops used by employees. So the people working for a company have mobile devices, and mobile device management is a way that allows these companies to manage these devices. It offers a centralized platform for administrators to enforce security policies, configure devices, distribute applications, and remotely manage mobile assets, right? So there's a wide range of things you can do with this. We'll go through some more detail right about now, but you just need to understand the broad topic really for the sake of this, as it is just one broad doc point. So the key functionalities, you have device inventory and management. You can track your devices, monitor their device health, and enforce compliance with security policies. So you can make sure you know where they are, you know how healthy they are, and you know what security policies they have on them, and make any changes in relation to that you need to. You can manage application management. You can install, configure, and update applications on your devices that you are managing. You can make sure they have the applications you want them to have. You can also make sure they don't have any applications you don't want them to have. If you don't want them to have Facebook Messenger, then you can make sure you blacklist Facebook Messenger so it can't be installed. Security management, you can enforce strong passwords, enable encryption, and remotely wipe lost or stolen devices to protect sensitive corporate data. So you can make sure that maybe you want them to use a fingerprint to log in, or passwords, right? You can set that up and they won't be able to change that. Data loss prevention, otherwise known as DLP. You'll need to know that term specifically for your Security Plus, not necessarily for this exam though, but just the general concept. You can implement policies to prevent unauthorized data transfer or sharing from managed devices. So you can make sure that there's certain information, maybe credit card numbers, maybe whatever information you deem important, that cannot be transferred or shared from that device, right? So you can make sure that information won't get out. And then remote access management, you can securely connect employees to corporate resources, email, and applications from their mobile device. I forgot to change the slide so you saw the pretty images that were related to that specific point, but you get the idea. Okay, so the benefits, you have enhanced security, improved productivity, simplified compliance. You don't have to rely on everyone individually complying. You can make sure they're doing it remotely. And cost savings. Effective device management can minimize the risk of lost or stolen devices and data breaches that come along with that, because you can make sure that data is secure. Some considerations. So you want to make sure the devices are compatible, of course. You want to make sure that you evaluate the level of security offered by the MDM solution, including the encryption, access control, and remote wipe capabilities. Remote wipe, you can wipe the data. That just means you can wipe the data remotely. So if it gets stolen, you can just wipe it so there's no data on that system anymore. Is it actually usable for employees? Is it user-friendly? And how scalable is it? So those are things you might want to consider when it comes to that. Now we're going to move on to Active Directory. So Active Directory, completely different topic. Now, next dot point. Active Directory is a directory service deployed by Microsoft for Windows Server environments. It provides a centralized location for managing user accounts, computers, security settings, and network resources within a domain. Here's a breakdown of some of the key components. So you can have a login script, or you do have a login script. And each of these ones in bold here, you need to know about for your exam. If you go back and have a look at the exam objectives, they're actually specifically outlined, right? So each of these you do need to know about, so you could be asked about any of these. These are specifically taken from the exam objective. So the login script is a set of instructions that automatically run each time a user logs into their computer. The login script are commonly used to configure user settings, map network drives, or launch specific applications. So as you're logging in, this script is running and setting things up as they're supposed to be. The domain is a logical group. First of all, we should know what a domain is by now, hopefully, because we've covered it a little bit. The domain is a logical group of computers that share a central database, otherwise known as Active Directory in this case, and a common security policy. Users log into a domain using domain credentials. So the domain is centrally managed by a central server, essentially. We should remember that from like one of the first videos we did on this exam, objective 1.1 or 1.2. Group policy is a set of rules and settings that are applied to user accounts and computers within a domain. So basically, you'll have a group policy for one set of users. Maybe the people who work in IT department might have one group policy. The people who work in on the front of the storefront might have a different group policy. The teachers working in the classroom would have a different group policy because they all need different things. So you're setting up their account with that specific group policy, and as they log in, it applies that group policy to their device, making sure they get everything they need to do. So it helps enforce security standards, configure the system settings as how you want them to be for that group, and manage software distribution. Now, similarly, the GPO updates are simply, you're updating that group policy. So you might make some changes, and then you'll push out a GPO update or a group policy update, and then that will just update that to that group policy. So next time they log in, that'll update and it'll be applied with the updated one, not the old one. So you're deploying security updates, software installations, and configuration changes to domain joined computers. And then organizational units. This is the name for the hierarchical, say that 3 times, hierarchical containers within a domain used to organize user accounts, computers, and other objects for easier management. Permissions can be assigned at the organizational unit level. So it is a container within a domain used to organize user accounts, computers, and other objects for easier management. So just think, really, organizational unit, it's how things are organized within Active Directory. It's a container that contains everything and helps you to manage the Active Directory in relation to user accounts, computers, and other objects. So if you're asked a question, hey, what is the name of a hierarchical container that allows user accounts, computers, and other objects to be easily managed within Active Directory? You're looking for organizational units. You just kind of need to know what that's called and roughly what it means. So that's about it for that one. Now, a home folder is also a network storage space designated for each user account. Users can store their personal files and documents in their home folder, which can be accessed from any domain joined computer. So you can log into this computer, put things in your home folder, go over here, log into that computer, boot up, and you'll still have access to those same documents and files, for example, right? Folder redirection refers to redirecting specific folders on a user's local machine to a network location. So this basically means that data is centrally stored, and no matter what computer you use, so long as it has access to that domain, you can access those folders because they're not actually stored on the computer itself, they're stored over the network. So when you're clicking on that folder on your computer, you're actually being redirected to a folder on the network, but you don't necessarily see that process happen. And then security groups, so a logical grouping of user accounts that simplify permission management. Permissions granted to a security group are inherited by all members of the group. So again, you have a group for IT, they might have additional securities when compared to the group for the teachers in the classroom, right? Because they don't need that network permissions. So you'll say, here is a security group for IT, here is a security group for teachers. Teachers don't need the same permissions that the IT does. So you just set those different permissions for different security groups. That's pretty much what that means. So all in all, Active Directory allows for centralized management, improved security, it has good scalability, and is a simplified resource access because you can access network resources from any domain joined computer with your domain credentials. You don't have to go to the same computer every time. Okay, let's get into the questions for this exam. We'll kick it off with the first one. Here we go. The first question reads, you're the security manager at a high-tech data center. You're concerned about unauthorized access after an employee accidentally left a door propped open overnight. What security measure would be most effective in preventing someone from tailgating through the entrance? A, installing a video surveillance camera at the entrance. B, implementing a stricter policy for keeping doors closed. C, upgrading the existing single door entry to an access control vestibule. Or D, equipping security personnel with alarms to wear on their belts. Your answer in 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you need more time. Here we go. It is upgrading to an access control vestibule, right? So the key here was the question specifically said, what measure would be most effective in preventing someone from tailgating through the entrance? So that's when you follow someone else through the entrance. And remember, we talked about how the access control vestibule prevents someone following through. So what did they say? They said, this question said, an employee accidentally left the door propped open. So that's kind of what prompted your concern. But the specific question here was, which security measure would prevent tailgating? Okay, make sure you can figure out what the actual question is, and that's what it was. What would prevent tailgating out of these options? Installing video surveillance, you could potentially see it after the fact, but it's not going to prevent it in real time. Yes, you can keep doors closed, but that's not going to actively prevent someone from following another person through as they walk through that door. You understand? So the access control vestibule is the only one that actually does that. The next question reads, your data center is undergoing maintenance. A designated area within the secure server room will be sectioned off for technicians using a temporary lockable wall with a single access door. However, due to space constraints, this section will remain accessible from the main server room to minimize security risks while allowing technicians access. Which of the following security measures would be most effective in physically securing the individual server racks within the designated area? A. Motion sensors throughout the designated area, triggering an alarm. B. Frequent security guard patrols. C. Equipment locks installed directly on each server rack. Or D. Implementing bollards at even intervals. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you need more time. It is equipment locks installed directly on each server rack. So let's have a look at the actual question itself and what it's saying. So there's a designated area within a secure server room that is sectioned off. So there are people within the server room, right? We can't prevent them getting access to the server room. But it will, and that whole room will remain accessible. So they have access to the server room. So what we need to do is we need to minimize security risks while making sure those technicians do have access. So they're in the room. We cannot, there's no point in doing motion sensors because we already know they're in there. They're allowed to be in there. Security guard patrols could be good to prevent, but we need to physically secure individual server racks. So the equipment lock on the rack itself is the only thing that's going to be able to do that. Bollards are for vehicular access, right? That's to prevent vehicles, not going to prevent someone gaining access to a server when they are in the same room as a server. So that's the only one that made sense there. And the final question for this one says, Charles is in the process of designing the access control measures for a new data center. Which of the following should Charles consider the most secure access control option? A. Smart card. B. Keys. C. Biometrics. Or D. Key fob. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is biometrics. So biometrics are by far the most secure access control authentication method out of those ones given. Think about it. Someone can steal your smart card. Someone can steal your key. Someone can steal your key fob. No one can steal your body, what you are. So that's why that's the answer there. The next question reads, while discussing the security design of your facility, a coworker asks you about a method of defining which users can access which resources on the system. What is your coworker most likely referring to? A. The principle of least privilege. B. ACLs. C. MFA. Or D. Hard tokens. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now, it is B. ACLs. An access control list is what decides who can access what resource and what level of privilege that person has in relation to that resource as well. So it's important to know that. The next question reads, which of the following cannot be used as a form of multi-factor authentication? A. Password and voice call. B. SMS and secret question. C. A complex question consisting of lowercase, uppercase, symbols, and numbers. Or D. Password and soft token. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is C. The question consisting of lowercase, uppercase, symbols, and numbers. The other options here were all one factor plus another factor. Password plus voice call. SMS plus secret question. C was simply describing a complex password. Sorry, a complex question. So it really didn't make any sense, that one. But just remember, multi-factor authentication is one or more factors working together to authenticate you. All right, so that is what you need to know. All right, next question is, you receive a TOTP, remember what that is, while going through the MFS process. Which of the following most likely generated this TOTP? A. DNS, B, Authenticator application, C, email security protocol, or D, ACL. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. B, the Authenticator application. So remember, the TOTP stands for the time-based one-time password, and the an Authenticator application is something that does produce that as a form of multi-factor authentication. So you might put in a password, and they'll say, hey, we need that one-time code. Use your Authenticator application to produce that and make sure their code matches the code we have on our system. Something to that effect, right? So important to know what that is and how that works. So that's going to be the questions. The next question reads, MDM is primarily used to manage and secure which type of the following devices used by employees? A, desktop computers, B, servers, C, network printers, or D, mobile devices. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you need more time. It is coming now. It is D, mobile devices. So MDM stands for Mobile Device Management. It is in the name. It only manages mobile devices. The next question reads, what is a central benefit of using MDM for application management on employee devices? A, reduced internet data usage. B, increased variety of apps available. C, employees have the necessary work apps and consistent versions. Or D, allowing personal app usage alongside work apps. The answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you need more time. The answer is C. Employees have the necessary work apps and consistent versions. So that is important. You get to choose what employees have what apps and what version of that app they have. The next question reads, which of the following is not a core function of MDM for security purposes? A, enforcing strong passwords on devices. B, enabling fingerprint scanning for logins. C, remotely wiping lost or stolen devices. Or D, encrypting the user's personal information. Pause the video if you need more time. The answer is 3, 2, 1. Now, D, encrypting the user's personal information. So these are, of course, all security related. But in terms of MDM, generally you're only managing the data, etc. for the company. You can actually separate it into the company related data and the personal data of that user's device, and generally, encrypting the user's personal information doesn't have any security benefits or purposes for the company. You're only looking at encrypting things related to the work that they're doing. So you would split it and say, we're going to do the security for the company related data. For their personal stuff, they do what they want. The next question reads, you are using Active Directory and have just implemented a set of rules and settings that applies to a subset of user accounts within your domain. Which of the following best describes what you have implemented? A, a login script. B, a group policy. C, a domain. Or D, a GPO update. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. The answer is B, a group policy. So let's have a look at that again. You've implemented a set of rules and settings that applies to a subset of user accounts. So there's a group of user accounts within your domain and you've applied a set of rules to them. That is absolutely describing a group policy. If you didn't get that one, have a read through this or go back and have a look at that video again. The next question reads, you have decided to play around with Active Directory while connected to your company's network, and you've come across hierarchical containers used to organize user accounts for easy management. What have you found? A, OUs. B, home folders. C, folder redirections. Or D, security groups. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. The answer is OUs, or answer A, organizational unit. So remember, we need to know what that is and what it stands for, and just that it is, in fact, a hierarchical structure for organization within Active Directory. The next question is non-existent. But if you found these videos useful, guys, head over to journeytocyber.com. I do have my A+ 1102 learning guide, which is breaking down the entire exam into exam objective. So it breaks it down by exam objective and breaks it down even further into every dot point for each exam objective. So for every dot point within each exam objective, you get comprehensive notes, you get active recall questions, and you also get practice exam questions for every single dot point within every single exam objective. So it's really, really, really thorough, and it helps you identify your weak areas, and it's going to help you prepare you to walk into that exam room with the confidence that you need. Because once you're done, you can even head over to the online quiz database and take a simulated exam experience with those same questions, but they're going to be randomized, so they're not going to be as easy. So with that being said, here's what people said about my last learning guide. And This learning guide that I have just talked about for you guys is like better than this one. So people are saying your learning guide is goated. I don't comment a lot, but it helps with organized information and helps me piece things together more easily. Thank you so much. Update your notes definitely helped me pass my test today. I downloaded your learning guide already and I can see it will help immensely with studying. I tried other popular resources but struggled absorbing the material. Will you have one available for the A plus 1102 Core 2? That's what I'm talking about right now. Get yours at journeytocyber.com. So again, that's there for you guys. I also have performance-based questions. Just want to note that all the prices are in Australian dollars. So if you're in America, it's going to be like chump change to you guys. And if you do get it, you'll be as happy as this guy. Look how happy he is. He is absolutely cheering. So I'll leave that to you. JourneyToCyber.com. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. We'll be starting exam objective 2.1. Oh wait, this is 2.1, isn't it? Never mind. I don't know where I am or what I'm doing. I'm all over the place. But I'll see you in the next one, whatever it is. Bye, guys.